If your dealership's still running a smile and dial script in a world of AI, you're already behind. Today, I've got one of the boldest voices in retail, April Simmons. She's not just talking leadership, she's living at it in the front lines. And if culture, communication, and accountability matter to you, stay strapped in. Welcome back to What the Prompt, where we turn buzzwords into battle plans for real car people. My guest today, April Simmons, Director of Dealer Operations at Horn Auto Group. She's built something rare, a culture people want to stay in. But instead of me rattling off a resume, April, can you introduce yourself? Let our audience know how you landed where you are and what makes your approach to leadership so different.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. My name is April Simmons. I'm getting ready to start my 30th year in automotive, which is a little bit crazy. I actually started in Nebraska in 1996 on the banking side and have been here in Arizona since 1999. I've been in every position basically in the variable side of the house, from finance to desk to internet director to GSM to GM to now my corporate role here with Horn Auto Group as the internet marketing director for our entire group. I would say that my leadership style is different. I think that there are a lot of people who have nature versus nurture, right? Like, I think there are some
Yeah.
people who are born leaders. There are some people who are born managers. And then there are some managers who learn to be leaders. And I feel like most of the things that I do that people would say, oh, that's such a great leadership quality, most of them are things that I go, well, duh. Like, isn't that how you just treat people? Isn't that just what you do? So I think there's some times where that's the case. But then I work really hard to get better and better and better. So I think that's where a lot of people think that once they hit the top, they kind of go, oh, I'm here, I'm at the top. I don't
Yeah.
need to learn anything else. I know everything. And that's not a leader, that's a manager. So if there is any piece where I would say that I may set myself apart from other humans, it would be in the sense that no matter what my title is or my role is, I'm always learning. I'm always adapting, and I'm always saying there's always something I don't know. So please educate me.
Being open like that and a great listener is definitely paramount. Yeah, I mean, how's the old saying? If you're not learning, you're dying.
Yeah, if you're green, you're growing, or you're rotting. Like, yeah, I don't remember the saying. It's not coming
Yeah,
to me right now, but yes, yes.
but and you and I definitely share that similar spirit like that. So it just makes sense, and it's breathtaking, of course, to know that there's other folks in auto that have that passion. In our call, you said something that stuck. Culture is not what you post. It's what people feel when leadership's not in the
Mhm.
room. How'd you build that? And where does it break down most often?
I think, and I will say we're not perfect on that. So that's something that is just a challenge that I put out to people of kind of realizing, and I'll use this analogy because I think it's a good one. When you have little kids, right? A lot of times as parents, we think because they're little kids and they're in the other room that they don't understand the conversation that the adults are having, or that they don't understand when I'm getting mad at you and I'm raising my voice, or maybe even just the irritation or the condescending way that maybe I'm talking to my spouse. And so many times, and we know this to be true, right?
Yeah,
Psychology has come out and said
right.
those kids pick up on everything.
Mm,
They hear everything,
right.
they see everything, they feel everything. So if you need to have a heated argument with that person, you best make sure they're not in the building, right? Because ultimately they're
Right.
going to pick up on all that. And even if they don't hear you or see you, when you come back, if you have a bad body language, a bad energy,
Hmm.
they'll pick up on that too. So when we transition and we talk about culture in the stores, a lot of times what I'll see is people tout on social media, or tout in a Saturday sales meeting, or tout when the owners come through about how we have this great
Right.
culture and here's all the things we do, and we've
High
high-fiving
fiving.
each other and we did all this stuff and we're all amazing. And then when nobody is looking, we're still having
Yeah.
these conversations at the sales tower where we're talking badly about the customers, or what in the world is
Right.
this guy thinking, or talking to each other in the tower, not recognizing that you have all these salespeople that are sitting in this room behind you making phone calls, and they can hear everything you're saying. and
Wow.
and those are the
Yeah.
little things that I see in both service and sales, where
Yeah.
if you really want to have this culture out front, then you need to make sure you
Hmm.
actually have that same culture in the back. And so this is the question
Right.
that I ask people. Do you want to look good, or do you want to be good? And there's a major
Right.
difference between those two. If I want to just look at all my metrics and stuff like that, then I'm not actually growing. I'm not actually trying to increase. I'm not trying to be a better person or sell more cars or get more customers in the service lane. I'm just trying to be like, see, I'm the best. There's nothing else to do here,
Right.
nothing to see here. We're already doing all the things. And that is, to me, mediocrity at its finest.
I was talking to a vendor earlier today, not in the auto industry, but they're in restaurants, coffee shops. They use AI video as mystery shops. While I was listening to this, what was going through my mind was how CSI in surveys, how top down we can hate them. But what picture I was coming to with was very similar to what you're saying. Let's play offense. Let's not play defense all the time. It sounds like defense when you're being fake. Is it really that hard? Do you have to stretch your inner soul that hard to be a good person?
Well, I think sometimes we punish people for trying to be a good person. So,
Mm,
here's an example. I tell you, we take care of customers, customer first. That's what we do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But now this customer took home a car. They took delivery yesterday, and they didn't notice it. And they called me up and they're like, "Hey, I'm missing my floor mats." Now, if I'm to take care of you as a customer, what should I do? Well, let's go get some floor mats and let's go deliver them to the customer, right? Whoops, we all made a mistake. It happens. Instead,
right.
what we typically will see is, "Oh, for real? I didn't set up any money. Who's going to pay for that? You going to pay for that, or am I paying for that?" Right? We start to make it impossible for a salesperson to actually then take care of the customer over a simple mistake. So next time, right? Fast forward, the next time a customer is missing floor mats, we go,
Mm.
you signed off saying you had everything, you got everything at delivery,
Right.
there's really nothing I can do. Because that's easier for them to do than to go back to that manager
Right.
and say, "Hey, oopsie daisy, we made a mistake." Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the stuff that happens all the time. And that's where we
Right.
create this negative culture that we don't actually realize we're creating, right? We say, "Well, we took care of the customer, we gave them the floor mats." Okay, but you made it painful to do so, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that wasn't the customer's fault. That was our fault. Did we either missed it, didn't communicate it, whatever the case may be. So, and that's a really small example, but it's the things that happen. It's the little things like that that happen all day, every day, that
Hmm.
we slowly show that we are not doing the things that we say that we do.
Right.
And
Right.
as we move
Yeah.
into AI, and this is one big point that I want to make, I've had a lot of conversations with good friends of mine lately on this. As we move into conversations with AI and we talk about CSI, yes, CSI is super important because all dealerships, their pay plans are tied to it, right? Every human's pay
Right.
plan is tied to it. So everybody cares very much about CSI, right? However, where we don't necessarily always care is what is our reputation actually out there when we talk about reviews, or we talk about
Right.
forums, or we talk about social media. What is our actual people saying about us? Fast forward, we kind of got too hooked up on all I care about is my stars now, right? Like, oh, I'm at 4.2 stars. We're fine. I don't, yeah, don't worry, don't care what that customer had to say. Like, they're full of it. They don't know. They lied. They whatever, right? We talk
Yeah.
about it like that. The real issue is as we transition to AI is going to play a significant role in whether you're a truth teller or not. So if I say on my
Yeah.
website, like, we
Yeah.
create this really great experience for you. However, AI goes out and reads all these things because now they're not just looking at those stars anymore. AI is going to read the forums. It's going to read the reviews. It's going to actually read what the customers say. And if
Hmm.
overwhelmingly that goes against what you're saying on your site, then Google's going to say you're a liar and they're going to penalize you in that SEO
Right.
world. And I think that that's
Yeah.
something that we've really got to get a grip on. And it goes back to, do you want to look good or you want to be good? We only do things in automotive if it is driven by our pay plan. And I'm
Right.
not saying that we don't, as managers, do things to want to drive the pay plan because we want to get a result. But you hear what I said there, managers.
Right. Right.
Leaders get people to care about the why they're doing what they're doing for their pay plan. And that doesn't mean just getting CSI to hit the check mark or getting a star to hit a review, but rather that the customer believes what they said on the review and the customer
Hmm.
believes what they said on the CSI, because what that will do is that will bring that customer back, and
Right.
that customer will come back and they will refer friends. And that's how you get more and more customers to come buy cars from you and service cars with you without spending more marketing dollars, without having to spend more on these pay plans. And I think that's the difference, core difference to me in leadership and management is
Hmm.
leaders take the time to get the buy-in by explaining the why so that people want to do what they're supposed to do.
I agree 100%. In everything you said, I've been in the floor mat situation more times than I care to bring up. Oh, heck, April, 2 days ago, I sold a truck and it was a dealer trade from April. We finally sold it. Couldn't find the second key. Delivered after hours, of course. So whoever may have had the key wasn't around to be found. Customer was totally cool. 46-year ex-GM employee, way cool guy. He actually called me today even, but he had to come back so I could make another key. It's too easy. Got him into the service drive. He's around the corner. Oh, hey, Mike, by the way, I noticed this big old scratch on the truck. Must have missed it, didn't see it. Cool. Went and looked at it with the WEO, ready to go. Hey, look, we got a collision shop. Let's get this knocked out. Collision shop somehow magically was able to make it go away. I thought, I mean, you scrape it with your fingers, like, oh man, this is in the paint. They took care of it. And that customer was so almost heartfelt impressed that everything got handled right there on the spot and customer for
Yep.
life, that type of thing. So definitely living the world you're talking about. We were talking previously, you talked about dealerships being addicted to the wrong scripts. What's the script that most stores are still clinging to that needs to die yesterday?
I think the biggest one for me in this one, and this is because I, live especially on the internet and marketing side, is this just get them in mentality. And it's crazy because we've been talking about this for 15 years. And yet there's not a single store that I go into that at some juncture I don't hear a person up there trying to find a way to get a customer to come to the store to buy a car, and they literally will turn around and just get them in, just get them in, just get them in, just get them in. And
Yeah,
it's just like nails on a chalkboard to me because I think, well,
yeah,
don't you think if they could have just got them in, they would have just got them in? They're coming to you
right,
because they couldn't,
right,
right? Because they hit an objection that
right.
they couldn't overcome, or they hit a wall that they couldn't get over. And I think That to me is one of the biggest problems in our space, is that we still have this, the only way to communicate with a person is on the showroom floor or, out on the lot. And a lot of our conversations now are beginning before the customer comes to the store. And so there's not always just this like, hey, I can just tell you that I'm the most awesome person. When can you be here right now or later today, right? You have to be able to build value to get that customer to come in. Now it's worth it, because if you listen to your
Yeah.
customer and I communicate with you, right, then ultimately you're going to come to my store. And the difference is customers used to go to three, four, five dealerships. They now go
Hmm.
to 1.2, which means that your
Yeah.
closing ratio should be through the moon, because by the time they decided to come to you, they plan to
Yeah.
buy a car. Nobody's wasting their
Right.
time anymore going and kicking
I like
tires.
that.
So if we can
Yeah.
start to understand that the just get them in mentality doesn't work, because ultimately they're not coming here to kick a tire. They want to do all of as much as they possibly can before they come in, that we have to just change that mentality of, okay, where did the meet and greet start? Did the meet and greet start at the door? Or did the meet and greet start maybe on your social media page or on your website or by the phone call that they called to your BDC? The meet and greet, the part where it started, I don't think the actual scripts have changed per se. I just think we have to understand that where the start of the deal is happening has changed, and we need to make sure that we change with it so that we're not causing friction for no reason.
What replaces that? What should a GM or GSM actually teach their people to say, or more importantly, think?
I think it's just that they need to listen, so that they can help to overcome those same objections. The reality of it is that a consumer, we think we can only close somebody if we're face to face. And my whole goal is like, yes, I still want to get the customer in. So let's just be clear. I don't want to say like I'm not like in this new age of like, oh, we don't need to interact with our customers face to face. No, we
Hmm.
absolutely do. But I do think where we really miss is that customers go through and do all this work online. They go through and they go to your website. They know you're going to blow them up, and they still give you their email and phone number. And yet we then give them no value for doing that. We just keep repeatedly hitting them with, when can you come in? And we'll give you a great deal. And we've got sales going on. And
Yeah.
we just keep hitting them with this stuff and not even looking and reading the lead to actually hear them. And that is the thing that I think just needs to change, but it has to change across the board. It can't just change with the
Okay.
people who are answering the lead. It also needs to change with the people, the management staff. So when they come to you as their manager and they say, hey, I can't get this customer in. Okay, well, why? What is the reason? What are they saying? What is the objection? Okay, let me pick up the phone. Let's call them together. There's just this
Hmm.
disconnect, and COVID made it worse because now everyone just kind of goes, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to call the customer. That's your job. Like, why would I call the customer? And it just goes back to, again, do you want to look good or do you want to be
Right.
good? If you want to raise, if you
Right.
want to make more money and you want to sell more cars, do the things that other people aren't doing. It's that simple.
I want to throw a scenario at you. I told you this season of my life, I'm back in a store as a salesperson, right? And now, April, I'm a great soldier. You give me an order. I'm ex-military, for crying out loud, even, right? I'm like, yes, sir, let's go, right? So I get a lead yesterday. Customer, I call, of course, right away. Customer opts in. We use Drive Centric, opts in. Hey, I'm not able to get on the phone until 5:30. I have GM employee pricing through my aunt. Text me everything. We'll put a full deal. Just text me the deal. Basically, she says. Long story short, I do. We get her done. We down to the trade. Send proposal. Good to go. I don't want to be there at the dealership forever. Okay, great. Put the deal together, give it to my sales manager, and he says, "Okay, now just get her here." I was like, I actually haven't even been able to talk to her yet. We're texting great, boss. This is the one you've already praised her trade, sight unseen. He calls her up. Cool. Okay, see you in an hour. Great. Awesome, boss. Thanks. She comes in. We finance couldn't get a 705 with high debt to income under a 13%. Super weird. Great income. Of course, I didn't look at the profile to tell exactly what it was. But long story short, um, we didn't sell her a car. And at the end of it, as I'm taking her, she goes, this is why I asked to do all of this over the phone instead of me coming in. And I just
Mhm.
apologized, of course,
Mhm.
right? I'm a pretty good customer advocate. I'm getting to a point where I'm not as much all the time anymore because it kind of like too when you do TMI, too much info, you usually don't hear from them anymore,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So I draw the line pretty good now. What would you have done in that manager situation where I gave my side on the customer's behalf, don't want to come in? How would you have handled
You
that, do you
know,
think?
unfortunately, I would tell you in that one, I think everyone would have handled it the way y'all handled it. I don't think
Cool.
any desk guy. I mean, I may have slightly just because of 8 years of finance experience, so I have a tendency to not
Mm-hmm.
just look at a score. But the majority,
Mm-hmm.
and by the majority I mean 99%, are going to look at this deal and go, okay, I'm not upside down. Perfect. 705. Perfect. No problem. Get him in. We're done. Like there's
I
nobody.
forgot
I
that
don't think
part.
there's.
8K upside down.
Okay, you missed that.
Yeah, I didn't say it.
um,
Yeah,
that would be so. In that instance, the upside down.
yeah,
Now you're talking about a loan to value situation, and it's
right.
not that you didn't get her done. You just didn't get her done at. Did we already quote her an interest rate prior to her coming in?
No.
Okay, that's it's a hard thing because to some people, and I'm going to use an example here real quick. Out the door, if you go and you ask 200 customers what out the door means, you will get many different responses. So customers are just kind of like just looking, they've been trained to ask the word for out the door,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, their perception of what out the door is completely different across the board. So, unfortunately, when a customer says, "Hey, I want to get everything done before I come in," well, they picked the car, you agreed on the price, you agreed on the trade. So, to one human, that would mean everything's
Mm-hmm.
done. To another
Right.
human, that doesn't. They wanted to have it, pre approved or what have you. So, clarification in what a person wants. I don't know that I would
Love
have
it.
done anything, though, different in that scenario,
Love it.
because
Yeah,
ultimately you did most of it, right? And I can
yeah.
understand the customer being frustrated because you'd ended up not selling a car that everyone thought was just a done deal. I don't know. I feel like that was okay.
It was one of those crazy ones, right? It's like a floor mat
Right,
situation.
right. Yep.
But the good news is she apparently her local bank is going to help her out with this. So it did turn out good. Everybody wins, and we just had to go through the process. But definitely, whether you're a 5 rooftop group or a 50, there's a growth ceiling, and it's not usually tech. It's people. You've mentioned that earlier. People just kind of stop, right? Where do you see the biggest bottlenecks when stores try to scale or shift?
I think it's really hard to be able to have the personal connection. So as you're scaling, even in a small store, right? If you're just one store and you're a general manager of one store and you have, 30 employees, you can, over time, you keep adding people, right? So you have the ability to kind of create that relationship. If you walk in today though, and it's a brand new store and you have 30 employees, like I can't overnight create a relationship with 30 people, right? You take
Right,
that then to a group level, and that gets to be really difficult to you start mom and pop and you start with this like I know everyone's name
right.
from the janitor to the GM, right? Like and you have that
Mm.
pride about it. But there's a spot when you're scaling that it becomes difficult to have that true personal relationship with every single individual. And when you start to lose that, it's hard to manage that. So it becomes almost like this crazy pyramid, deal where you have to say, okay, I have to have such a good personal relationship with these people below me to believe that they
Yep.
are going to pass on me to the people below them and that they're going to pass on
That's
them to
good.
the people below them. But the problem where what chinks that armor is when one of these people like does not do it the way you would do it, then everything
Right.
below that falls. Does that make sense? So I think that that's the
A
hardest
hundred
part with
percent.
scaling is
Yeah.
how do you as a human scale yourself?
I know once you get into management, your product technically is your people versus I'm selling to a
Correct.
customer. Now you're selling to the employee. So I definitely understand and get that. And the analogy is great. Moving into, you and I both know tools don't fix
It's true.
culture. Can culture unlock better tools? So let's talk tech. How do you evaluate tools like AI, CRM, and marketing vendors? What's your vetting process?
Ultimately it's 90 days for everything. That's first and foremost. Like I don't
Yeah,
allow, we're not gonna sign up for something, go through all the headaches and then you tell me 1 week later, oh, it's not working. No. We're gonna do a buy-in up front. We're gonna make sure all departments understand what this thing can or can't do. And
good.
that's really important. I think that is one of the biggest misses. Oh, sure, we'll try it. No, it's not worth anybody's time with a, oh, sure, we'll try it. You need to have all the people that are going to touch it try to poke holes and how it might help your process or hurt your process. Because salespeople, it's not their fault when you're looking at tech specifically. They know what they know of their
Hmm.
product. What they don't know is
Right.
how that product is going to impact all the other products you have and the process that you are on, right? So just because you have a similar tech stack at, dealership 123, well, dealership 123 might have a completely different process. So just because that works
Got it.
there does not mean it will work for me. So it's really
Right.
having to say, okay, let's talk about exactly what it does and what you are going to have to do as a human to make the thing work, to baton toss the tech from one thing to the other. Because right now, as far as I'm concerned, there is no such thing as a tech stack that works hands off. There is no such thing.
Hmm.
There's no
Hmm.
tech stack that says I plug it in and then everything just works. Nope. Nope.
Right. Right.
So your humans still have to take it from point A to point B. Point A may be way more automated now, and point B may be way more automated now, but you still need the human to take it from A to B. And that's where,
Yes.
unfortunately, I see a lot of misses, which means I see a lot of companies that get hired and then get fired.
Right.
So,
Right.
really, to vet, you really need to get who all is going to touch this, get the buy-in ahead of time, and always give it 90 days.
Yep, I agree with that. It's almost like a Clark Griswold moment trying to plug in some Christmas lights.
Mm-hmm.
It may work here, it may work here, but when you're plugging that in, it may have a different outcome, and it all has to do with workflows and processes. Definitely, it's weird almost to think about. Within the past 10 years, 20 years, workflows and processes really became key in auto industry, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, those have always been ways of selling cars, but just putting it down and template control throughout multiple places has really been a big promise for us. Here's what I'd love to know: when a vendor shows up and says AI to you, what do you actually want to hear from them?
It's interesting. I actually started telling people, so I've been on a clubhouse for a couple of years now called The Human Side of AI. And it was initially started because when AI first came out, right? Like I don't understand it, and like I said at the top of the conversation, I need to learn. I can't say, yeah, let's go do these things and not understand how it
Right.
works. Not just from a standpoint of, training people or trying to figure out whether it works in my tech stack or not, but also from, in today's world from a compliance standpoint. We live in, unfortunately, in a sue happy society, and you really need to understand and know how things work. And AI kind of, honestly, in the beginning especially, kind of scared me. I thought, I mean, I don't know what it can do, what it's going to do, what are the ramifications. So I started in this clubhouse to really start to kind of learn things. And very quickly, there was one thing I was real adamant about, and that was when vendors come in, I highly recommend you don't say the word AI. And the reason that I say that is this: most dealers at this point have tried something and it failed so
Right.
miserably that they canceled it.
Yeah.
So now in their
Yeah.
mind, anyone who's already tried something, AI bad. So I always say
Right.
don't lead with that this product is AI. Feature, function, benefit. Go through
Mm-hmm.
what your product
Mm-hmm.
actually is going to do for me. Then you can tell me how it's powered, what the machine is, how that machine actually works. Because dealers are starting to learn, right? Large language
Yes.
models versus, walled gardens versus these things, and starting to learn the questions that we need to ask so we know what we're actually getting. But I don't like the word. I don't like even leading with AI. I really don't.
I want to update this question. What question should a store ask when evaluating an AI product?
And that is a very, very good question. And the first one is, what type of AI are they utilizing, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people will say AI, but it's not. It's really just a form of automation, right? So there's a
Yeah.
major difference between, having AI or using AI. So, and a lot of times you can tell by how much it costs. Just throwing that out there,
Mm.
right? You still get what you pay for in a lot of cases. But the
Yeah.
biggest one to me is, what will it take for your AI to learn what it needs to learn to be at the efficiency of a master tech or a master employee in my business? That's the question to ask, because what I have
Yeah.
found is it learns over time and then it'll be this great thing. Okay, cool. How long? Because basically,
Right.
anytime you hire AI, for the most part, it's like you're hiring a toddler, and now that
Mm.
toddler has to learn before they get to being like
Right.
a college graduate. What does that time look like? Because what happens is a lot of people, if that takes too long, there's too much problems that happen early on. We're not going to be in a relationship because I'm probably going to have to cancel you because you're probably going to cause me more headaches than the advantages you might be giving me.
So, what's interesting is there's no two stores alike. Even under the same ownership and operator, there's still a different
Mm-hmm.
culture in each store. It's like fingerprints, right? Each store has its own unique fingerprint in a city, in a region, in a PMA. Do you think they'll ever there should maybe be like a LLM per dealership to learn the culture, its synergy, the way they communicate? What do you think of that?
It's going to have to get to that spot, because that's why a lot of these fail, is they don't have the ability to onboard a dealership to take in all the different things, right?
Yeah.
Service especially, right? And sales,
Yeah.
once you get into, region, you get into dealership, you get into import versus domestic, right? Like you can get pretty dialed in.
Right.
But with service, there's so many different things. We have different packages. Here in Arizona, we got to get you in more often because it's hot in the desert and the things. And so there's so many different variables and
Hmm.
packages and ways that things are done. Do you schedule by the advisor? Do you schedule by the tech? How much time do they need?
Right.
Do you conflict with
Right.
what the OEM suggests? Do you have different things that you do? I think what is ultimately going to have to happen in our space is that It will have to be specific to the dealer. And the onboarding is where the key is going to be. And the onboarding's got to be a bigger, let me sit down and ask you all of these questions to understand who you are. Then I can
Yeah.
actually be an employee for you. And you need to train it like you train an employee. You can't
Right.
train it like, oh, the OEM rep, right? The OEM rep
Hmm.
doesn't work in your store. I need to
Right.
train it like
Right.
an employee. When an employee
Yeah.
comes in, we tell you how to clock in and out. We tell you, this is our works package and this is how we offer and here's how we do our, our MPI, or here's how we do our walk around. Here's how we do our, our test drive route, whatever. It needs to be trained like an employee.
Where do you think that type of training data comes from to train the LLM? Would that be like a reputation management,
No, what I actually
SOPs?
foresee is that it's going to be the training manuals of the inside the actual dealership, right? The training materials,
Yeah.
all of the training materials that we currently have that we use to train our humans has to then just
Yeah.
be uploaded over here and be like, okay, take all of
Yeah.
this in. Now
Yep.
what's left? Where are there blank spaces, right? So whatever now is still blank. I don't know the answer to this, and this. Then you come back to the dealer and say, I just need to know this, and this, right? Because you can't ask a dealer 900 questions. I'm telling you, if a GM gets an intake form that has more than 3 lines on it, guess what they do?
Yeah.
They don't fill it out. They put it off, they procrastinate that thing as long as possible. So,
Yeah.
we've got to find a way to get the job done for them without putting all of that huge intake on them. And I think to me,
Yeah.
the easiest way is just to say, hey,
Yeah.
shoot me over your employee manual, whatever your training materials are, upload those. And if we upload those over
Yeah.
there, then we can answer all those questions. And that's what I think we need
Yeah.
to do.
You're really giving the cheat sheet for vendors. So, vendors, if you're taking note, please listen. This is actually gold for you. You can upload into a LLM and ask it while you're creating products and services how to go about that. April just gave you the cheat sheet right there. Here's a good question. When do you fire a vendor?
Typically for just strictly for non-performance, and I think that
Hmm.
unfortunately it's a fortunate unfortunate, right? In our business, a lot of times we
Yeah.
keep bad vendors because we like the humans, and
Hmm.
sometimes we fire good vendors because we don't like the humans. So the
Yeah.
humans really do play a role. And so you have to separate the facts and feelings sometimes with that and say, okay, am I looking to fire this because I just don't like this person? If that's the case and it's a good product, then maybe I need to call somebody else at that company and say, hey, I'm just not gelling with this person. Can we maybe do a reset, realign situation here,
Right.
so that I don't have to fire you? Or if the performance just isn't there, no matter how much I like the human, you just
Yeah.
have to be straight and say, look, business is
Yeah.
business. I can't
Yeah.
keep you because the performance isn't there. The ROI has to be there. And we have to be able
Right. Right.
to quantify that ROI as best as possible.
Let's say you're going after a specific vendor that does, let's say, maybe marketing outreach, looking for like click throughs on a website or lead generation. Do you benchmark before you go out?
I do benchmark, but I think it's really important to say that I benchmark based upon what my goal is, because too many
Hmm.
times people will benchmark and then they go, well, this isn't producing enough leads. Well, that may not be the
Right.
goal of that campaign. The goal of that
Yep.
campaign may be a higher funnel play where I'm just trying to get the click. I'm
Right.
just trying to start getting you into my funnel. Well, if that's the
Hmm.
case, you're not going to convert on that first click. That's not the
Right.
goal. So you can't
Good.
have the same
Good.
benchmarks for every vendor. And I think that that's really important that people understand. You should have benchmarks, but those benchmarks need to be based upon the goal of the campaign that you are running.
Agreed. Agreed. I've always ran it on brand awareness, brand consideration to
Mm-hmm.
conversion. You got to have a little bit of a little bit of period between them. So April, if you had 90 seconds to Steve Jobs the hell out of this. Paint the future for us. What does the 2030 dealership look like when leadership, process, and AI are in full sync?
I'm a real believer that while everything changes, everything stays the same. So, what I mean by that is that fundamentally, the psychology behind sales, no matter whether we're talking cars or anything else, really comes down to feeling, right? Like, I want this. Why do you want it? Is it because somebody else has it? Is it because it reminds you of your mom? We don't, a lot of times, even can't even fully quantify why we specifically want something. Like, you go buy a sports car and I go buy a sports car. We buying the sports car for the same reason. A lot of times not. It's a different feeling that you
Hmm.
might be after versus me.
Right.
There's a reason I like a, an old school sports car because I like it to growl. I'm not a Porsche girl because they don't growl. So just it's one of those things that we have to understand that sales really is still about feeling, and the psychology of and that
Yes.
piece, that's never going to change in my opinion. What does change is methods of communication, and that's all that's really changed. If I go back to 1980 versus 2025, the only thing that really has changed through all of that time is we have a cell phone, we have
Hmm.
email, we have text messaging. I mean, remember when we first had to text, you had to go 333 and a 552 and right to like spell one word. So
Yeah.
that, so things are getting easier in a form of way of to communicate. So AI to me is just another space of communication. It is a method of communication. Is the evolution of going from having a landline that we dial, right? And no more than one person can you talk on the line at a time, to now I can talk to thousands of people at a time, to now having AI. So AI to me is just a method of communication to create efficiencies. But the core
Hmm.
fundamental of how we sell, why people buy, that is never going to change, in my opinion, ever.
On the internet sales team, I still get leads, and my CRM really doesn't differentiate, I guess you can say, right? Like, I could read the lead source, I can see that it was a car now chat, they're asking for a price, I can see if they did a prequal on a GM website, and I can tailor according to just the lead source,
Mhm.
right? Like, honestly, I read through. I'm the dork that clicks on the XML to read through the code. Is like, is there more in here that I don't
Bravo.
know? But there never is. But there never is. It it's still XML. It still looks the same, right? I really don't know if there's a different approach. Like, I will try to tailor. Thank you for doing your pre-qualification on this Traverse. Do you have a trade? It's like, I guess what I'm trying to really explain to you is they still all feel the same.
Mhm. And they're not.
Do you see the same thing? But they're not. And okay, there's where I want.
And
That's what I
they're
want.
not. And one of the key things that I am really passionate about is actually how much they are not. So, what I mean by that is, I actually went through and trained my teams just recently on the 9 different types of leads that there are. And there are 9 different types. And
Okay.
those customers, where they come from, too many salespeople right now, they don't even know how they got that lead, right? You know
Yes.
the process that the customer went through before they got to you, because that will help you with articulating starting a conversation. If it came from
Okay.
Auto Trader, when's the last time you were a customer, went onto Auto Trader
Yep.
and went through the process that the customer went through to get to that spot? Or if it is
Right.
a
Right.
chat lead, what did they have to go through on your website to get to that place where they
Hmm.
submitted that lead? And the reason that this
Right.
is important is because things like website leads, we know, close at a much higher rate. Well, why do they close at a much higher rate? Because
Yep.
that's a low funnel customer. They've already done a whole lot of other things before they got here.
Right.
However, if it's a third party lead, that customer is a much higher funnel customer. So if I'm having a conversation with you saying, hey, cool, do you like this Traverse and what's your trade? You're asking buying questions on a customer who's probably not ready to buy. Okay.
Right.
So the
Yep. Yep.
what we're talking to a customer about really does matter. And there is way more
Yeah.
that we need to look at. Where did the lead come from? Where in the buying process is this customer? And here's the big thing that I challenge anyone who answers an internet lead. What value are you providing the customer that they didn't already have? If in 2025 you're getting a chat internet lead and you're literally sending them back a link to the website that they were just on saying, here's the vehicle of interest for you, when can you come in?
Yeah.
You're missing. We're missing. You are
Yeah.
absolutely failing. So where is the value for that customer? What are you providing as the human to say, here's what I can provide for you. Here's why buying from me matters. Where are you at asking questions? If that customer showed up in your showroom and said, hey, I'm here to look at a Traverse, would you just walk out to
Hmm.
the lot or point the finger and go, hey, it's over there. Let me know if you have questions, right? Let me know when you're ready to buy
Yeah.
it. I'll give you a great deal. I'll be
Yeah.
sitting in here in the air conditioning. No. What do? You qualify their wants and needs. When's the last
Right.
time anyone has answered an internet lead to start to
Right.
ask the customer a question
Yeah.
to say, hey, other than do you have a trade? Okay, well,
Yeah.
awesome. That's what
Yeah.
everybody does. If you want a different result, do something different. Ask a qualifying question. Do you currently have, instead of saying do you have a trade, oh, do you currently drive a Traverse? Do you currently drive an
Yeah.
SUV? Or is this your first time looking at SUVs? Right? Are you open to colors? Do you like light or dark? Like, nobody even tries to engage the customer to say, what is it that I can do to be here to help you?
Hmm.
Did you go out and take a video of that Traverse and show them the one thing that you think is super duper cool, that's different about the new one versus, the one they might have previously? There's so much more that can be done,
Right.
but
Right.
why we don't. So we have to be real. Why do we
Yeah.
not? Well, if we talk about internet leads only, I'm not talking about phone pops, I'm not talking about walk-ins, I'm talking internet leads only. The national average is somewhere between 6 and 8% closing ratio. Okay? If you're doing a really good job, you're at 10%. Anyone who says they're north of 12% are batting out leads that should have gone to lost to make themselves
Mm.
look better on that closing ratio. Okay? So let's just take a good, like you're doing a good job, 10%. What does
Yeah.
that also simultaneously mean? If you're doing a good job at 10%, you're failing 90% of the time.
90%.
Okay?
Yep.
I just told you on a fresh walk in, you should be closing those at extremely high rates. If somebody walks in and you're closing at 70%, then that means you have a 30% failure rate. That means I'm going to put more effort and energy because I myself believe that I'm going to sell you a car. What we
Right.
prove to ourselves in internet is that 90% of the time I'm not going to sell you a car. So why go through all that extra effort and energy, April, if
Yeah.
ultimately,
Right.
here's the difference. Look at how many more cars you sell if you're at 6% versus 10%. That 4% difference, that's almost double.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So again, it goes back to the question I have. Do you want to just spend a bunch more money in marketing to drive tons and tons more
Yeah.
leads? Or can we just dig in and do a better job with what we have and increase that
Right.
close rate and sell more cars and make more money?
I think many times we will put an internet sales team together and just drive to close. So, for instance, let's say I get a lead right now. I know I have 5 minutes before I lose the lead. So, I'm going to real quickly do an opt in lead or text just to stop the clock, which just says, Michael Rodriguez would like to text you. It's the canned text. And then so I'm like, all right, cool. I saved my lead. Nobody could get it now, right? It's my little personal lead. And then now I'm like, okay, now I'm looking at the lead. How did it come in? If it's Auto Trader on a stock number, I'm still like, do you? So, I'm being vulnerable. This is Michael vulnerable. I might be turning red even. This is vulnerability. I still will do that many times. Thank you for your request. I have three questions. Are you still in research mode, or are you ready to drive one home? Are you new to Chevy? I asked those types of questions on my initial email, but
But that should be
try
every
to because I
time.
tried.
Because on your auto trader
Uh huh.
example, that customer is put in a lead, gave you
Yeah.
their information on a specific stock number,
Yeah.
okay? Not on a Chevy Traverse, but on a specific stock number.
Yeah.
A specific stock number is somebody who wants to buy this thing. So where's your
Yeah.
excitement? Where's your urgency?
Yeah.
Where's that in that response? I didn't hear any of that in anything you just said, right? So in a stock number specific like that, I would say something like, "Hey Mike, I'm so glad that you're looking at this vehicle today. We've only had it for a short period of time and we have had so much interest on it. It is marked out, it's a great deal, da da da. What is it about this vehicle that you love? But more importantly, when does it work for you to come down and take a look at it today or tomorrow?" Go right into setting that appointment. But you have to create urgency.
Hmm.
Where is any of that? Right?
Yeah.
And then this will be the same customer that 3 weeks later goes, "Yeah, I'm ready to come in and see that vehicle, Mike." And you're like, "Yeah, I sold it 2 weeks ago." Duh. Of course you did.
Because you didn't create.
You didn't
Yeah.
create
So,
any sort of
somebody else raised
urgency
their
on
hand
that one
faster.
off vehicle. If it's a used vehicle and it's a stock number like that, that's a one off vehicle. Where's the urgency? Where's the hate? You know what? I was just drove that vehicle yesterday and it's amazing. I'll send you a video here in just a few minutes. Be on the lookout for it. Customers don't even believe that you have the car half the time. So showing them that you
Right.
have the car and just them actually seeing it, right? "Oh my gosh, you
Hmm.
should see this thing. There's not a tear on the interior. It's amazing."
I got one good question for some, or one good story for somebody who may be watching this video that hates doing videos. I'm gonna tell you this week that same customer with the paint issue, the scratch in the truck. The lead came in Saturday. I'll be honest, I was blessed. Sold three cars. Sent him my emails, but I didn't send him a video. Monday morning rolled around. I went in, did a 4K video, sent it to him. He replied back, "Remove me from your list." And of course, after I get that, my brain's processing. What did I do wrong? Blah blah blah. Right. Anyway, the guy ends up showing up, and he buys the truck from us. So if you're watching this and you hate doing videos, this is a sign that video can
That's
work.
right. It's actually statistically proven. And
uh,
here's the thing with video: it is an efficient use of time. And I'm going to leave with this. Obviously we've rocked on a whole hour already, which is amazing. But I want to leave with this: video is the thing you really need to adopt and understand this. Video open rates. People watch video at an 80% number right now. In my store,
wow,
statistically, that's my average, 80%. What is your open rate on an email, on an internet lead?
not sure.
You should know that. But
Yeah,
typically, it's somewhere in around a 15 to 20% is your open rate. What about a text message?
look a
Bit
bit
higher,
higher.
typically
Yeah,
around 45
yeah.
maybe percent. So how many
Hmm.
texts and emails do I have to send to get across the same message that one video did? Okay.
Right,
So this is
right.
the problem. We're like, yeah, but video is so much more work. But is it? But is it? When I have to send 3 texts and 7 emails to equate to one video, it isn't more work.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
isn't more work. So that would be my big challenge is listen to your customer, give value in answering in your communications, and communicate via video.
Very good. If you're in leadership and today's conversation made you squirm or made you nod, that's a sign you're in the right place. Subscribe to What the Prompt on YouTube, drop a review on Spotify, share this with a leader who needs to hear it. And April, thank you for showing us what happens when leadership doesn't hide behind titles or tech. You build people. And when you build people, you build stores. Today's prompt is this: what if culture was your best software? What would your people do then? Thanks, everyone.